A very good morning, students. Welcome back to online session on programming for problem solving course. In our previous session, we have completed the first unit and I have also given the assignment to you people, and I believe you will submit that assignment on or before the deadline to score some good marks, because as I said, these assignments whatever we are giving, we will give after the completion of each and every unit, and it is your responsibility to complete the assignments on time and score some good marks, because these marks they are going to contribute in your internal marks. Okay, so do the needful as early as possible, and I'm going to share the because right now I don't think I have shared the what we call the link for that assignment submission, and definitely I will create that link, and you just be ready with that assignment, complete the assignment and create the PDF file by scanning the papers, and make that PDF ready. And once I share the link, you just add that PDF to that Google form and you can shoot it to me. Hopefully you understood that one. And many students, they are asking, sir, can we write the assignment in notebooks instead of writing it on a A4 paper? It is up to you. Okay, wherever you want to write, it is up to you, but just make sure when you are taking the scanning has to come properly. Okay, because I'm going to evaluate not only by seeing the what we call the clarity of the assignment, but also the way how you send the file to me, because many people will simply take the images, okay, images, and they will send those images. I will not consider such a thing. Being an IT professional, you have to know the importance of doing the representation. And if you're not good in using the IT technologies, believe me, it is waste of time. Okay, so learn it how to do it, and if you don't know, go to the YouTube. We have a lot of videos on creating PDF files, scanning the documents with the help of virtual scanners. Okay, we have many different applications like cam scanner and a PDF scanner, like sorry, document to PDF. Likewise, we have different applications in your Android App Store or Apple Play Store. If you go, you will find a lot of things over there. Simply download any of the application into your mobile, and you can easily scan the documents or easily scan those papers and create the PDF file. Okay, just make that PDF file ready by the time I send you the Google Form link. Okay, so as I said, the 11th of this month is the last date for the submission of the assignment, and believe me, I'm not going to give any extension on that one. So whoever is going to submit, I will consider that list as my final list, and no more excuses, no more extensions are entertained. Okay, so in today's class, we are going to start the second unit, and I think the programming part also we will see in today's class. Okay, many of the people, many of the students, they are eagerly waiting for the coding part, and in today's class hopefully we'll do at least one program by using the IDE. Okay, so many of them who came for the doubt clarification sessions, I already showed them how to do the, I mean, how to write the programs, and how to do the compilation, and how to do the execution. No worries if you have missed that doubt clarification sessions. Here again I am giving the clarity to you people. Okay, so quickly we'll start the second unit, and as you can see, the second unit, we are having two different parts in this one. The first one is control structures. Control structures we discussed in your first unit as well. Control structures will change the regular flow of your program, isn't it? Regular flow of the program to change, we use these control structures. Okay, when we discussed about flow charts over there, I explained this concept very clearly, how these control structures are used in our program. We said we are having three different types of algorithms: sequential, conditional, and iterative, isn't it? So sequential, uh, they are normal algorithms. Whatever statements we are writing in that sequential algorithms, all statements will be considered sequentially. No repetition, no skipping. Okay, no skipping of any of the statement and no repetition of any of the statement. That is sequential algorithms. Then we said conditional as well as iterative. So these two are control structures because they are going to change the regular flow of your program or regular flow of your consideration. So when you are considering the statements in your algorithm, if there is a control structure, then what will happen? Either a particular statement will get repeated or a particular statement will get skipped, isn't it? Either a particular statement will get repeated or a particular statement will get skipped from your algorithm or from your consideration. So this is what the control structure's job is. Okay, so in detail we see how these control structures can be used in our programming. Okay, so the next thing is the concept of arrays. It is a wonderful concept, and this arrays not only in C and these control structures not only in C. Believe me, when you go to data structures, there also we are going to use these control structures. Your if else, else if ladder, nested if else, all these things, and loops, while loop, do while loop, for loop, and they have to become like what we call uh, bread and butter to you people, because many of the times go to any of the programming language, whether it is C, C++, Java, Python, or R programming, your other related stuffs like what you do in your subjects like computer networks, operating systems, software engineering. There also we are going to write the codes, and in those codes as well, compiler construction, web technologies, JavaScript when you study, HTML when you do. Okay, many different occasions we are going to use these loops and these conditional statements. Okay, conditional statements as well as iterative statements. You have to standardize the concept, okay, and try to understand this concept thoroughly. That is the reason why the second unit is very 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 important. Okay, so then we have the concept of arrays, and as I said, arrays, it is a wonderful concept, and these arrays also we are going to have in multiple languages, multiple programming languages. If you study about arrays and if you understand these arrays in C programming, ultimately it is going to help you in C++, Java, Python, Pascal, whatever R programming, JavaScript, whatever you are going to learn. In JavaScript also we are going to have arrays. Okay, so that is the reason why C programming is considered as the basic level of programming language, because whatever programming constructs we are going to study over here, they are going to help you until and unless you clear this BE. Okay, you complete this Bachelor of Engineering. Okay, so without much ado, I'm starting my second unit, and the first concept in your second unit, that is arithmetic expressions. Arithmetic expressions. So before understanding what are arithmetic expressions or simply expressions, we have to go through certain terminologies. So terminology is nothing but the new words whatever we can expect in our discussion. Terminology is nothing but the new words and their meanings whatever we are going to use in our discussion. So throughout the discussion of the second unit, I found these words as the new words. The first one, expression. What exactly is an expression? So this expression, it is not new to us because we are from mathematics background and we do know what is an expression in our mathematics, isn't it? So an expression is a sequence of operands and operators. I guess operator, it is already known to you. Of course, I will explain what is an operand. Okay. So again, we have to know what is operator. We have to know what is operand. And then thereafter, we will categorize the expressions. We'll discuss the expressions. And after that, we will see the operators, the categories of operators. It is a very lengthy concept. Okay. In your second unit, more or less, we are going to do this kind of play only. Okay, so an expression is something, it is a sequence of both operands as well as operators that reduces to a single value. So when when the expression you evaluate, it should reduces to a single value. To explain that, I am taking the help of my whiteboard. So let us quickly see, so if I'm writing an operator, so what are my operator? I have like plus sign. It is an operator, isn't it? It is an operator. Okay, then I'm adding this 2 plus 3, like this I'm doing. So here this 2 and 3 are my operands because I'm performing the operation on those operands, on these two operands. Where I'm performing this plus on these two values, I'm performing my operation. So that is the reason why this 2 and 3 will become my operands. So this is my operand and this is also my operand. This is also my operand. And what is this plus sign then, which I am having in between? This is my operator. This is my operator. Like this, you remember. This is my operand, this is another operand, and this is my operator. So when you perform this operation, whatever this operator is indicating, when you perform this operation, what will happen? The complete value will be shortened, or the complete value will be evaluated to a single value, isn't it? To a single value. So what result you will get from this operation or from this, yeah, thing is you will get 5. So again we see the discussion. I mean, again we tally out the definition of your expression. An expression is something which is a sequence of operands as well as operators. It is nothing but it is the complete sequence, isn't it? 2 plus 3 I am writing. It is a sequence of operators as well. It is a sequence of operands as well as operators, which when evaluated will result a single value, which when evaluated will result a single value. Not only like this, you can also have the expression something like this: 2 plus 3, then multiply with some 6, like this. So like this, how many operators I have? 2 operators I have. How many operands I have? 3 operands. 2, 3, 6 are my operands, then plus multiplication are my operators. Okay, so how I can evaluate this complete value? How I can, so this is my expression. This is my expression because it is the sequence of operators as well as operands. It is a sequence of operands as well as operators. So I can call this thing as expression. So which when evaluated will result a single value. So what is the single value over here? You will get 20. Isn't it? You will get 20. So according to BODMAS rule, we have to evaluate this multiplication first. So 6 multiplied with 3, you will get 18 plus 2, that is 20. So like this. So hopefully you understood what is operator. Operator is nothing but it is going to have some specific type of operation to be performed. Or operator is something which performs the operation on operands. And the second thing is, what is operand? Operand is something which receives the operation from the operator. Okay, operand is something on which the operator performs the operations. So like this you can remember. Quickly go and see to your slides what we have over there. So see these definitions, the expression definition we have seen, it is a sequence of operands as well as operators which when evaluated results a single value or reduces to a single value. So this thing we discussed. So the next thing is what is operator? Operator is a syntactical token that requires an action to be taken, or an operator is something which performs the operations on the operands. Okay, then what is an operand? An operator is something, operand is something which receives the operation from the operator, or operand is an object on which the operator is operator performs the operation. So likewise, so expression. So now these things are clear to us. We defined the expression, and when we defined the expression, we got two new words over there, that is operands as well as operators. Then we defined the operands as well as operators. We defined the operator and we defined the operand. Then yeah, after this we have to see how many types of expressions we have. Expressions can be of two types. Okay, expressions can be of two types: simple expression and complex expression. Okay, an expression contains, if an expression contains only one operator, we call it as a simple expression. If your expression If it contains only one operator, we call it as a simple expression. So this is your simple expression as it is having only one operator. If an expression contains more than one operator, then it is a complex expression. So this is my complex expression as it is having two operators. So the categorization, you remember, when I'm saying simple expression, I'm categorizing this simple and complex expression based on the number of operators that I'm using in the expression. If I'm using only one operator means my expression will be simple expression. If I'm using more than one operator means not only two, one or two or more. Okay, if one means simple, if two or more means complex. So that thing you remember. So the next thing, yeah, operator in C language. Operators are the foundations of any programming language, as I said. Okay, the functionality of C programming language is incomplete. Okay, the functionality of your C programming language, it is incomplete without the concept of these operators. So the operators can be defined. So first we defined the expression, then we have seen what is operator, what is operand, then we have seen the categories of expressions. So now these operators, yeah, the definition of the operator already we have seen. Operator can be defined as a symbol that performs a specific mathematical or logical computations on operands. Okay, what the operator will do means it will not only perform mathematical, but there are some computational logics that also we can get with the help of these operators. Very soon you will understand that one. Okay, so in other words, operator operates on the operands. Operator, yeah, here you can see, I mean, maybe the pronunciation what I am giving you will not get clearly. When you read it you will get clearly. Yeah, the operator is something, yeah, where I'm writing, here I'm writing, so I will come over here. Operator is something which operates on operands. Operator operates on operands, like this you remember. Operator operates on operands. Okay, in C, operators are broadly categorized into three types. Okay, operators, how many operators we have? Three types we have categorization. If you see, okay, the operator which requires two operands, I mean, the first we start with unary. So the operator which requires only one operand to perform its value, and there are operators which requires two operands to perform its value, or to perform its operation, and there are operators which requires three operands to perform their operation. So likewise we have unary operator which requires only one operand, binary operators which requires two operands, and ternary operators which requires three operands. So only the number of operands are differing over here. One operand means it is a unary operator, only one operand. If two operands means it is a binary operator. If there are three operands required, then it is a ternary operator. Likewise you remember. Okay, likewise you remember. Unary operator, binary operator, ternary operator. Unary operator requires only one operand, binary operator requires two operands, and ternary operator requires three operand. Okay, quickly we go and see, yeah, that already I have explained over here. See the unary operator. Operators of this type operates or works with a single operand. If you are taking only one operand, then the operand category will become, sorry, operator category will become unary operator. If operators of this type operates or works with two operands, so here you can see, when I defined the unary operator, I said operator of this type operates or works with a single operand, so the name unary operator. Example, the increment and decrement operator, we call them as increment operator and we call it as decrement operator. Very soon you will understand this thing. Okay, then binary operators, we have binary operators. Operators of this type operates or works with two operands. If you have exactly two operands, then we call such an operators as binary operator. If an operator requires three operators, see here, three operands, if an operator requires three operands, then we call it as ternary operator. Binary operators, all arithmetic operators, whatever we have like plus, minus, multiplication, division, modulo division, all these they require two operands to perform the operation. So that is the reason why we are calling them. They are not new to us, isn't it? They are not new to us because they require two operands. We are calling them as binary operators. Of course, this increment decrement unary operator and this conditional operator, we call it as conditional operator. Conditional. So this conditional operator is also new to us. So very soon we will understand. So the concept of binary operator is not new to us. The concept of binary operator is not new to us. But when it comes to the concept of unary operator as well as ternary operator, they are new concepts. So very soon you will understand. When you do it practically, you will understand. So based on the above criterion, whatever operator category, whatever operator type we discussed, these operators are broadly categorized into this. How many types we have here? I think 8 types. So they have categorized into 8 types. So this is A, B, C, D, E, F, 6, then 7, 8. 8 categories. Okay. So this is based on the number of based on the number of operands they require. This categorization is based on the number of operands they require, and this category is something else. Okay, this categorization is something else. So operators, they have been categorized into 8. The first one is arithmetic operators, relational operators, logical operators, bitwise operators, assignment operators, increment and decrement operators, conditional operator, and then the other operators. We have some other operators also that also we have to discuss. So hopefully in today's class we'll complete only arithmetic operators. I don't want to give much confusion to you people because in today's class, as I said, we are going to start the programming part. So I don't want to confuse you people much. So I'm giving this arithmetic operators only. We will discuss only arithmetic operators in today's class. So quickly go and see what we have into this arithmetic operators. So arithmetic operators are used to perform arithmetic or mathematical operations. All mathematical operations like adding two numbers, subtracting one number from another, dividing one number with another, multiplying one number with another, getting the remainder of two numbers. All these things we call them as arithmetic operations. The basic level of computational job the computer will do over here. So that is the reason why we call them as, and moreover they are closely related to your mathematic operations. And we are here, what we are doing, we are doing the simple calculation. So that is the reason why we are calling them as arithmetic operators. So arithmetic operators are used to perform arithmetic or mathematical operations on operands. So all operators will do their job on operands itself. Remember this one. So arithmetic operators, what we have, the arithmetic addition. Arithmetic addition, the sign will be like this plus sign we use here. This plus sign, and the operator name is arithmetic addition. And how the binary, because it is a binary operator, it will take two operands, so it is a binary operator. So the binary forms we are seeing. How we do? Suppose A and B are two operands, then how we do the addition? A plus B, like this. Then we have minus sign. We call this as arithmetic subtraction. And how the binary form? We have to put that operator between the two operands A and B. A and B are my operands and I am keeping like this. Then multiplication, arithmetic multiplication, and the form will be like this. Then division, okay, arithmetic division, the form will be like this: A modulo division B. And when you are performing the division operation, you do remember that B should not goes to 0. B value, it should not go to 0, because if B value goes to 0, what will happen? Your program will crash, because it is an unpredicted condition, isn't it? Unpredicted value or unpredicted condition. That is the reason why what will happen? If you perform the division with 0, your program will crash. So don't perform any such type of operation. Okay. Sometimes the system even hangs if you do such a thing in your programming. Okay. So then we have modulo division. It will return the remainder. Already in the concept of algorithms we discussed this modulo division. Okay. Then this, we call this as modulus. Here you can see the spelling modulus, arithmetic modulus, arithmetic modulus operation. And what it will do, generally it will return the remainder. Okay, when you perform this division operation, instead of quotient it will return the remainder. And here also, as it is a division operation, you should not make the b value as 0. Again, if you take the b value as 0, your program will crash. Okay, yeah, here I have given that note only. While performing division, the second operation, the second operand, that is b, second operander is nothing but b, must not be equal to 0. While performing modulo division, both the operands must be integers. That means you can't take um, real numbers over here. When you are taking the remainder, when you are tallying the remainder, we should not take as non real non-whole numbers. Okay, non-whole numbers, that is nothing but real numbers. Okay, they must be integers, as well as the second operand must be non-zero. Okay, must be a non-zero number. Remember these two cases. Okay, so then we'll simply demonstrate, I will demonstrate you how to do this programming now. See, C program to demonstrate the working of arithmetic operators. That's what we have to discuss now. C program to demonstrate the arithmetic addition. Oh, sorry, all arithmetic operation, not only addition, but all arithmetic operators we have to discuss. So quickly we will see how we can perform the operations. So in order to, yeah, see, many students they are asking, sir, how to get the compiler or how to get the IDE, integrated development environment, what we call it as an IDE in short, how to get that IDE into our computers. So I will put the link to download the IDE as well as the Turbo C. I suggest you to do the programming practice in IDE only. Turbo C, it is an outdated one and nobody is using nowadays to do the programming using, I mean, in C or C++, nobody is using. Because I have suggested your seniors also, those who are in currently third semester and fourth semester, I mean third semester and fifth semester, I suggested them also to use the IDEs only whenever they are doing the programming. And believe me, it will become a kind of practice to you people, the usage of advanced tools. Okay, so I suggest the same thing to you people also. Instead of going with that traditional Turbo C, um, even if your lab faculty they are insisting you to do the programs in Turbo C, you ask them, you recommend them that we want the knowledge of IDEs only. Okay, because many times what the lab faculties will do means they will suggest you to do the programming in Turbo C. Okay, uh, when you do the programming in IDE, you only will understand how easy it is doing the programming in IDEs. Okay, integrated development environments. So quickly I will show you that IDE because it is taking some time in my computer to open that IDE. Uh, yeah, it got opened, I believe. So let me just shift to that IDE. See, the name of the IDE what I am using over here is Dev C++. Okay, DEV CPP. So like this you write it and remember it. Okay, let me just check how the name exactly it is so that I can give you the name. So so Dev or DevOps, it is Dev CPP or Dev C++. So simply go to the Google and type SourceForge, or else shall we do it? I mean, we'll go to the Google and we'll see. See, go to the Google. Many times what happens means if I open the browser, my recording will get hang. So that is the reason why I'm bothering of opening these browsers. So I'm opening Google. So control enter. So let me just check whether my recording it is going on. Yes, it is going on. So not to bother about it. So in Google, what you have to do, type Dev C++. So this first thing, simply type like this, Dev C++. So then you can go to this Dev CPP download. soundforge.net, and from here you can download that Dave CPP. See here, directly they are giving the link over here. Click on this link and download this Dave CPP into your computer. Hopefully you will do that same thing. So now I'm shifting to this Dave CPP. So once you download and once you install this Dave C++, see, I will create another video where I will show you the complete installation process. Okay, I will make it, because not only the C++, and one thing also I forgot to tell you, that very soon we are planning another course after that HTML and XML, whatever we discussed as part of the bridge courses. And now we are planning an add-on course. This add-on course we will be doing along with your regular academics, okay, not as part of the bridge course, or not in the vacation time, but we are planning this add-on course along with your academics. So whatever subjects you are studying now, parallel to those subjects, will do this add-on course as well. Add-on course, it is very simple. We'll do the SQL as we promised when I gave the lectures, or when I gave the course of Excel. At that time only I promised that after Excel we'll be planning SQL. Okay, so that SQL very soon we are starting. Maybe this weekend you will get the complete information about it, and I will post the videos as well. So as part of that BDA club, Big Data Analytics Club, because I am the course mentor for that BDA club, and because whatever technologies we are learning and whatever installations we are going to do, all those things I have to show you practically. So this Dave C++ video also I will create, the installation of this Dave C++ and how to configure the compiler into this Dave C++. That thing I will show you as part of that training program. Okay, so I will create a separate video where I will show you clearly how to install this Dave C++. Not only installation, how to download, how to install, how to configure, everything we will see over there. Okay, so once you download, install and configure the Dave C++, you will get the environment like this. Okay, this is the Dave C++ environment. So in order to open a new file, simply, I hope all these things are visible to you. Go to the Files tab. Okay, go to the File tab, then click on New and select source file. Okay, source file. So the environment, it will open like this. The environment, it will open like this. Here we can write the C program. So if you have attended the lab, maybe the lab faculty have explained you about the what we call, let me just, okay, what we call the structure of C program. So that structure is something like this. So stdio.h, then int main of void, and then, yeah, this thing, this simple thing. Okay, this simple thing you are going to have in each and every C program. Without this, it is not possible to write the C program. So simply remember. Okay, this portion we call it as the what we call header files. Here we are going to include all our header files, and this is the global declaration area. So this is my global declaration. Something if you want to declare globally, that you have to do over here, declaration area, and this is your main function. We call it as main function, and in every program you must have to include one main function. Okay, and inside main function we are going to have the local declarations as well as the other statements. Whatever statements, whatever logic you want to include, that you have to include. And after the main functions, if you want to use any other user defined functions, that you can put over here, other user defined functions. So you might have noticed whatever extra things, extra lines of statements or English like statements, whatever I'm writing over here, I'm including all those things inside comments. So these are nothing but your line comments. We discussed the concept of comments, isn't it? So line comment will start over here, and where it will end, when you are ending the line, there only it will end. Here the line comment is starting and ending the line is here, so here the line comment will end. So all these comments, what your compiler will do with all these comments, it will simply ignore them. It will not process. Your compiler will not process all these things. Okay, just to give the clarity what is a structure of C program, I have written all these things. So the first section is the header file inclusion, and second section is the global declaration area, then main function area, then local declaration, other statements, and other user defined functions. So like this your structure of C program goes. Okay, so now I'm deleting all these things. So yeah, in each and every program I'm going to write these statements. Okay, how we are going to start the program means hash include stdio.h only. Okay, so simply for your understanding I'm writing, because I have to use the comments also, I'm writing the comments over here. Now I'm writing multi-line comment. Previously I wrote single line comment, now I'm writing multi-line comment. So multi-line comment, this program is done by or prepared by myself. My name I am writing over here, so that any person who opens this program, opens this code, he should understand that who wrote that program. So prepared by me. And the purpose, for what purpose I prepared this program? To demonstrate the working of arithmetic operators. So like this, here I am ending my multi-line comment. Now you can see my comment is spanning more than one line. Okay, so then I'm writing my I'm including my header file, that is stdio.h. So stdio.h stands for standard input output header file. So basically inside my program, yani I'm going to write my program over here inside these two curly brackets. We call them as curly brackets. So brackets also I will explain now. We call them as parenthesis. So one second, I got something over here. Okay, we call these things as parenthesis. Okay, parenthesis. Then we have like this, we call them as square brackets. Remember all these things, or if you have a running notes, just note down all these things, because these things are not there in your notes. Many times you people were asking now, sir, what should we write in our running notes? All these things you have to write. Okay, parenthesis, then we have square brackets. And programming also, this type of programming you will not see in your notes. That programming, the traditional way, whatever I have copied from your textbook, that you will see over there. Okay, so here the regular hands-on experience we are seeing. Okay, so next thing is parenthesis, then we have square brackets, then we have these things, we call them as we have two different names for this one. Sometimes we call them as curly brackets, or we also call them as flower brackets. Curly brackets or flower brackets. Then we have another type of brackets, that is like this. Okay, we call them as angular brackets. Angular brackets, just remember all these things. Okay, we have four different types of brackets in our programming. On your keyboard also you can frame these type of brackets. The first one we call them as parenthesis, then we have square brackets, then we have curly brackets, then we have angular brackets. Okay, so this thing hopefully you understood. So I'm removing this one. So once again, parenthesis, square brackets, curly brackets, angular brackets. So I'm removing this now. So hash, we call this symbol as this pound symbol. Okay, this symbol, sometimes we call them as hash symbol or pound symbol. Hash or pound, P-O-U-N-D, pound, hash symbol or pound symbol. So this hash or pound symbol is used to make or to create preprocessor commands. In our programming, to create the preprocessor commands, we use this hash. Okay, hash or pound symbol. We use hash or pound to create preprocessor command. And hash include is one such preprocessor command. Hash include is what? It is a preprocessor command and used to include the header files into our program. So this you write down. Hash include, why we use hash include, is a preprocessor command. First of all, it is a preprocessor command, and why we use this hash include in the sense, in order to include the header files into our program, we use this hash include. Hope you understood this one. So the next thing, yeah, when we are including the header file, we must have to put that header file name into the angular brackets. So between angular brackets, what we said, we are keeping stdio.h. So this stdio.h is nothing but standard input output header file. Standard input output header file. And using this hash include, what we are doing, we are including, or we are adding this stdio.h into our program. Okay, the reason for adding this stdio.h into our program is because we are going to use many predefined stuff. Predefined means already the meaning, the definition already given. Okay, as we are using many predefined stuffs in our programming, so all that predefined stuff, where it will be stored, inside these header files only it will be stored. So that is the reason why we are including this header files into our program. Okay, so standard input output means this is the basic file which you require in order to write a C program. So that I am doing over here. So after this, what should I do? Yes, I have to write the coding. So I am declaring, yeah, declaration of variable, definition of variable and initialization of variables already we discussed. So I am declaring two variables. Yeah, I'm doing the initialization also like this. One variable int a. A is my variable name. Okay, giving the name, declaration, a is my name. Specifying the type, integer, definition, integer is my type. Assigning the value 20, initialization. Okay, likewise I have done the initialization. So this is my literal, constant literal, which I am assigning to an variable of type integer. Like this you can remember. So all those concepts we already discussed. Variable, what is variable, we discussed. What is data type, we discussed. What is constant, we discussed. And how, see, there is one rule in your C programming. Whenever you are writing a particular statement in your English language, after to indicate the end of that statement, what we are doing, we are keeping a full stop at the end, isn't it, to indicate the end of the statement in uh, end of the sentence in English. We are keeping a full stop at the end. So over here, sentences, we call them as statements. In C language, in English language, whatever we have as sentences which will give the full meaning, isn't it, which will give the full meaning, here in C language we call them as statements, which will give the full meaning. And every statement you must have to terminate with a semicolon, this symbol. Yeah, here, these symbols also we have to discuss. So this type of symbol we call it as semicolon. Then this symbol we call it as colon. Two different symbols, two different meanings we have. Okay, so right now, to get this, why we use this, we discuss now. And when it comes to colon, when it comes, we will discuss. So semicolon, why we are using, to terminate all these things you write down, to terminate the statements. Okay, statements in C. To terminate the statements in C programming, we are using a semicolon. So this kind of strategy, this kind of structure, not only in C, we follow in C++ as well as in Java also. And the same editor, IDE, we are going to use in C++ also. Okay, of course, Java somewhat different, and it is a very high level, very advanced programming language. When it comes, we will discuss. Okay, so like this, you remember, semicolon, to terminate the statements. In C, we use this semicolon. So as of now, I have written one statement, int a equals to 20. It is a full meaningful statement, and I am terminating it with a semicolon. Same thing, I am declaring another variable b with take some 4. like this. Okay, so now I am going to perform different operations. Like how we said, when we wrote the algorithm, we followed the same strategy, isn't it? First of all, we have to collect all the ingredients we have collected. Okay, still what is missing? The containers are missing to store the result. For when I'm adding, I will store the result in add. When I'm subtracting, I will store the result in subtract. When I'm multiplying, I will store the result in multiply. Or else we'll do individually. We'll write separate programs. So after performing the addition, I want to store the result in add. So then, yeah, the output screen, yeah, that we will discuss afterwards. So next I have to perform the addition, isn't it? So add equals to a plus b. Okay, add or sum, because in your algorithm we used sum, right? So I will write sum only here. So sum is equals to a plus b. So after getting the result, after when you have the result, to print that result, we use the printf function. So what it is? It is a printf function. Printf. So it is a predefined function to print on the output screen. To print on the output screen. So if you have something and that something you want to print on the output screen, what you have to do? You have to make use of this printf function. You have to make use of this printf function. I will just show you how this printf function will print some value. So let us say hello world. So hello world I want to print on the output screen. So okay, so simply I'm writing, okay, I will remove this thing. Simply I'm writing this thing, and I will show you. Yeah, we have to save the program. Okay, after writing this one, so you know down this one printf, why we are using it? Is a predefined function to print on the output screen. Note down this statement. So then I will remove this one. So only this much of program I have written. So after writing the program, what I have to do? I have to save this program. So go to file, click on save. In file we have save. So click on save, and then yeah, here what we are doing? We are printing a simple message, okay, or sample message. Sample, I'm giving the file name as sample. After writing sample, give dot, then C. Because it is a C program, you have to give the dot C extension. Okay, because it is a C program, we are giving the dot C extension. Then hit on enter key, or click on that save button what you got over there. So like this, now my program is saved. Okay, once the program is saved, you can see the name over here, sample.c. So now after saving the program, now the program is in source code. It is .c extension, so it is source code. This source code, what I have to do? I have to give it to the compiler and I have to compile it. Okay, then I have to give that compiled module to the linker and I have to get the executable module. So this both the steps we'll do in one single process known as compilation. So how to do the compilation? Yeah, here on the top in these tabs you may find one tab with name execute. Okay, click on this execute, and the first option is compile. Okay, when you click on this execute, the first option is compile. Click on this compile. See here, it will start the compilation process and it will give you errors and warnings. As it is saying 0 errors and 0 warnings, that means you don't have any errors and you don't have any warnings into your program. Your program is error free and it is not having any syntactical errors or logical errors. Okay, so now to see this output on the output screen, okay, what output this program will print, to see that output, or what this printf function will print on the output screen, again after compilation, what you have to do? Go to the execute and run. Okay, first what we have done? We have written the program, then saved the program, then compiled the program. Compilation successful. Now we are executing. So run. Yeah, here you can see the output. Yeah, the output, it will display on the output. This black screen is your output screen. So here it will display the output like this, hello world. Okay, whatever I have written inside this printf, the same thing you are getting over here. So instead, if you want to print something else, like I want to print my name, okay, so Muhammad, like this I have written my name. Okay, to print this same thing on the output screen, same again, as you have done some changes, what you have to do? Save the program once again. Click on save. Yeah, you can use these short keys also over here. Click on this save button or go to file, select the save option. So my program got saved. Now again go to execute, compile, compilation successful, then execute, run. See, as you can see my name over here. Okay, so every time whenever you are doing the changes into your program, every time you have to save, you have to compile, and you have to execute. You have to follow that creating and running programs steps we discussed now. Writing the program, then saving the program, compiling the program, linking the program, executing the program to see the output. All those steps we have to follow sequentially and repeatedly. Okay, so like this. So now what I do, I will go with my that code. So far I have written this much of code. So I have calculated the sum. So printf function to print something on the output screen. So now I want to print the result of this sum. Whatever I have inside this sum, I want to print that value on the output screen. So how I can print? Simply put percentile d over here. Okay, this is another type of concept. Why we are writing percentile d over here inside double quotations? This is another concept. When it comes, we will discuss. So it is too early to explain all those things. And even if I brush, I mean, if I feed all these things over here, you will not get anything. So believe me, we are going slowly, we are moving slowly, and whatever is necessary for you to understand at this stage, only those things I am feeding. I am not giving anything extra. So the advanced concepts or the confusing concepts, when it comes in our discussion, we will discuss, not right now. Okay, so what I have to print, I want to print sum, so I'm giving sum over there. So right now I'm printing the sum value on the output screen. So save this program. See, yeah, you can go to file, save. Okay, so then execute, compile, compilation successful, then execute, run. You can see the sum of those two. Okay, I have inside A I have 20 and inside B I have 4. So I'm adding A plus B. So 4 will be added to that 20, and the result will be stored inside sum, isn't it? The result will be stored inside sum, and that sum I'm printing with the help of printf function. So I'm getting the value 24 on the output screen. Hopefully this is meaningful to you. So the next thing, suppose if I want to perform the subtraction, then what changes I have to do in my program? Okay, simple thing, the name I have to change here, sub. Okay, and over here what I have to do, minus you put. So now save the program and go compile. As you can see, I am getting an error over here when it is listing, when it is giving this red mark kind of thing over here. It indicates an error in your message, sorry, in your program. It indicates an error in your program. So what is that error? It is saying over here, see, sum undeclared, some variable undeclared. In function main, some variable is undeclared. So whatever sum we are using over here, we have not declared. So instead of sum, we have declared sub, and still we are using sum. So that is the reason why it is giving an error. So the variable what I am using over here, sum, it is undeclared in my program. We have not done the declaration definition of this variable. Okay, so now how to do the declaration? Yeah, don't do the declaration, simply rename it, because we declared sub, so we are using sub. Here also subtraction, so sub likewise. So now no error. So again I'm using this okay, many of the times I will use these short keys only. Slowly I will make you aware of all these keys. So click on save. Saving is over, compile, compilation is over, run. See, now you got 16, output as 16. So how I got 16 over here? Because I'm subtracting this 4 from A, 20. Excuse me. So 20 minus 4, I got 16 as my value. Same thing for multiplication. How we can change this value? Mul you put, and excuse me, mul is equal to A multiplied with B, and here also you have to print that same mul like this. not capital, isn't it? Small. Okay. If you use capital, again your compiler will give you error. See, just for your understanding, I am keeping here mul small. But over here, when I wrote this mul, I made this m as capital. So it is an error. See, your compiler will give you an error. Mul is undefined. So as I said, C language is case sensitive. Case sensitive in the sense uppercase and lowercase letters are completely different. Okay, they will have some different meaning in your programming. So that is the reason why capital MUL and small mul, they are different. So now I wrote this small mul, I will not get any error. You can see compile, no errors, zero errors, zero warnings. And when you execute, you will get the 20 multiplied with 4, that is 80. You will get 80 on the output screen. Hopefully you understood. So then to do the division, we will take div, and here also div, and here a by b we are performing, and here also I have to change it to div. So now save it, compile it, successful, execute it. See, we are getting the division as 5, isn't it? 20 divided with 4, we will get 5 as our quotient value. Okay, so if you divide 20 with 4, you will get 5. So likewise, so the next thing, modulo division. So I will make it as mod, here also mod, so here also mod, and I have to change the operator also, so to modulo division like this. Okay, percentile symbol. Save it, compile it, successfully compiled, execute it. See, 0 we are getting. So if you divide 20 with 4, you will get 0 as a reminder, because it is perfectly divisible by 4 with 4. 20 is perfectly divisible with 4. So that is the reason why you are getting the reminder as 0. So if you take some other value over here, instead of 20, if I take 21, then you will get the reminder as 1, isn't it? So go and compile and execute. See the reminder as 1. Sorry, you can see the reminder as 1 over here. Okay, hopefully you understood. See, the output you can make more readable. So when you are performing the addition, let us say when you are performing the addition, so what we did over here, add, add, add. So here you can print as we are performing the addition. Addition equals to, like this you can. Addition equals to. So now compile and then run. See, addition equals to 25, because 21 plus 4 we are doing right now. So 25, addition equals to 25, like this. Suppose when you are performing the subtraction, minus, okay, this is sub, isn't it? Sub, sorry, here also sub, here also sub, and change this simple message, so word, to subtraction. Subtraction. Now save the program, execute, compile, then run. Don't rush for anything. Okay, don't rush for anything. Slowly we will learn everything. Okay, so subtraction is equals to 17, like this. So then multiplication, so simply change mul, okay, then multiplication, so like this. So here also we have to mul. Save this, compile, compilation successful, execute. See, multiplication equals to, so see, multiplication equals to 17 only it is showing, because we have not changed the operator over here. So go and see, this is logical error. So what I am expecting right now, I am expecting the multiplication output, but I am getting the subtraction output. Why? Means I kept the wrong operator over here. So your compiler is not detecting that error. Your compiler, it is simply giving it as a right code only. It has shown 0 errors, 0 warning, because there is no error in the syntax. Your compiler is responsible for detecting only the syntactical errors we discussed in the concept of syntactical and logical errors. Your compiler is responsible for detecting only the syntactical errors. As I have done the minus sign over here, but I am expecting the multiplication of these two numbers. There is no error in the syntax. I'm following all the syntactical rules, but uh, yeah, this is something logical error. We as a programmer, we have to identify that logical error. Because I am getting the wrong output, I have to correct my code. So I am going to the code, I am changing that symbol to multiplication. So now I will get logical error is removed, so I will get the accurate output, correct output. So now there are no errors, no warnings. Go and run. Hopefully you understood. This is very important concept. So now 21 multiplied with 4, you will get 84. So that multiplication it is showing. Now the time of division. So simply div, here also div, sorry, and here also uh, division. Okay, division, and here also you change it to div. So now save it, execute, compile, and run. Okay, division equals to 80. Again, I forgot to change the operator. So here instead of multiplication, you have to put the division. So save it. By practice only you will get all these things. Okay, simply listening to whatever I am saying, it won't give any um, output to you. Okay, so run. You can see division we got 5. Then modulo division, again I will change the value to 21. So I will make it as mod. Here also I will make it as mod modulus division, modulus. Here also mod. Okay, and here modulus, modulus. See, many people are asking, do we have to take this same mod, sub, add, mul? It is of your wish. Instead of sum, you can take add. Instead of add, you can take C, because AB you have already taken. You can take C also. Okay, like that you can take the all these are just the names given to the objects. All these are just the identifiers. You can give anything. Okay, Ram, Robert, Rahim, anything it will accept. Likewise, so simply go execute, compile. Okay, it is correct only. So now again go run. See, you are getting no. Again I have to change the symbol over here, operator over here, that is modulo division operator. Save it, compile, execute. See, sometimes I will do the mistakes wantedly, because from mistakes only we will learn. And I suggest you people also, when you have written successfully the program, simply remove this main. Remove this main and save, compile. See what error you will get, what error it is listing over here. Okay, likewise. So then remove this header file, complete header file you remove. Okay, then save and execute. Check what error it is giving. All those things you have to, okay, all those things you have to do, and remove the semicolon at some point. Save and compile. See what error it is giving. Okay, so like that you have to make yourself aware of the errors, because from errors only we will learn. Okay, and at the very first stage it is more common that you will get error. You will forget to give this space in between. You will write int a equals to 20 like this. It is very common. So ultimately what you have to give, yeah, when you execute you will get such an error like this. It will show you error. So come over here, give the space, that error will go out, that where error will go off. Again it will give here, remove this, like this you give the space. Okay, so in this way we execute, we write the programs using the IDE, we save the programs, we compile the programs, we execute the programs. Very simple phenomenon, very simple concept. And from now on, after every concept, we are going to practice the programs. Okay, and the download of this IDE and how you can execute the C programs on your mobiles also, I will create a separate video and I will show you all those things, hopefully. Thank you very much, students.